The Eagles are back at home on Sunday against the Rams. Both teams looking to start 3-0, and a lot of the talk this week has been about the Eagles' offense and why Jalen Hurts will not throw the ball downfield. But today we'll hear some interesting comments about the Eagles' strategy ahead of this huge challenge. We'll also respond to the egregious reaction in regards to the Tush push, and we'll break down some of the main keys for the Birds to get another win this weekend. All that and more coming up right here on A to Z Philly. But welcome into the show. I'm RB, and man, I am stoked for this one. It feels like it is lining up to be another great game, just like in the playoffs, right? A classic, a thriller, big time matchup, two great NFC teams this season, and I think this will be really the first big test for the Eagles as we move forward. We'll talk about all that, but you know what's not a test for the Eagles? The Tush push. That's right. And I thoroughly enjoyed this week watching the mic'd up footage where Chris Jones of the Kansas City Chiefs literally had a mental breakdown. This guy actually imploded. He erupted because the Tush push is driving everybody insane. The goalposts continue to get moved. First they're talking about injury concerns. Then they're saying that the refs can't call it. Then they're saying it's an ugly play. The NFL doesn't know what to do because they allowed it to stay in the game. Everybody's mad because they don't know how to do it. The Eagles are unfair at it because they have the right personnel and everybody else is losing their damn mind. But anyway, Chris Jones said they ran the same play 7 bleeping times, and Saquon responded with, "The whole world knows what the bleep we're doing, and it doesn't bleeping matter." So, like I said the other day, man, run it 50 times, piss all these teams off. They want to cry and complain and not work on it. Fine. Let the Eagles do it. I don't care anymore. Jason Kelce responded to somebody on Twitter about saying that the play was hard to officiate. He says you're out of your mind if you think players jumping the snap and lining up in the neutral zone doesn't happen on other plays. People complain about tackles leaving early on pass plays all the time, and I agree with them 1,000%. They just keep trying to find a different loophole and a different way to get into complaining about this play. So, look, man, I think the refs are definitely going to officiate it closer this weekend. Maybe there was a few plays last week where they were offsides or whatever. And I think, the Eagles might get flagged this week, but who cares? Like I said, they're just so good at it. It is literally an automatic on 3rd or 4th and 1. Jordan Mailata also responded by saying, "This is my official plea to the other teams out there. You can run the Tush push the same way we do." And you're right, but you're also wrong because they can't, because they don't have the right personnel. Because instead of going out and upgrading their team or finding a way to do it better, they just want to sit back and cry and complain. But the same teams that wanted it voted out are the same teams that are still running the play. Isn't that funny? Last but not least, we have Kevin Patullo on whether the refs will be extra strict on the Tush push, whether that concerns the Eagles. He says, quote, "Some games they call it close, some games they don't. Defense is always aligned offsides anyway." So Kevin Patullo does a good job at kind of deflecting and just making it into a joke. And we will talk about Kevin Patullo in just a second. But let's talk about this game coming up. Injury update for the Birds. Will Shipley actually practice today after missing the first session of the week? So I thought Shipley was going to be out like 6 to 8 weeks. If he's already back practicing, maybe this is a really good sign. Maybe it's a miracle for Will Shipley. Also, Dallas Goedert, Tanner McKee, and Jalen Carter were limited. Dallas Goedert is tracking towards maybe playing this week. They said he's, kind of a 50-50 at this point. Would surely love to have him. He's an important player. And we saw that a lot last week, especially in the blocking aspect and for the offense as well, which we will talk about. Trust me. Here's the Rams injury report. Braden Fisk was a DNP with an oblique, but I think he's going to play. Devontae Adams had some rest. And also, Akilo Witherspoon, which was the Rams starting corner, ended up breaking his clavicle this past week. So he is on injured reserve. He's out for a while. And that is a big hit to the Rams, especially in regards to stopping DeVonta Smith and A.J. Brown. And speaking of that, we have to talk about Kevin Patullo, because Kevin Patullo was asked about getting the ball downfield. And he says, quote, "It's always in place. Sometimes in games, it just doesn't happen. It's not something we're avoiding. Going forward, we'll still have the plan in place. And if it comes up, it'll definitely happen." So I don't really like this quote. Now, maybe it was just part of Kevin Patullo not trying to give too much away and answer the question, but The Eagles absolutely need to throw the deep ball. It needs to be in the playbook. It might even need to be in the first 15 if Kevin even wants to do that, because the other game he said they didn't even have that. So I'm a little confused with Patullo here. Maybe, again, this is just kind of like deflecting away from the question. But at the end of the day, the Eagles and their offense has been the topic of convo all week. I'm still happy that they're winning games. The fact that they're 2-0 and they still really haven't unlocked the offense yet is a great sign for this team. And once they do, they will probably be unstoppable. But what do you think about that quote from Kevin Patullo? I'll tell you what, the first key, in my opinion, to this game, just as a little preview before the preview, I think that the deep ball and the play calling is going to be huge in this game, and it probably will decide the game. Like, there will be points where you will have to stretch the field in this game. You can't be too conservative. We saw it in the playoffs. The Eagles even got conservative defensively at the end of the divisional round game, and they almost got burnt because of it. So they just have to keep putting it on, and Jalen's going to have to unleash it this week. Now, Brian Baldinger tries to provide an explanation for the Eagles' passing game struggles. He says they're not taking chances. Jalen is not going to turn the ball over. He'll be as conservative as possible. And watching the film and, looking at all these stats, right? Jalen Hurts' average depth of target this season is at 6 yards per attempt, which when we think about it is pretty alarming. But it's only been 2 games. They have time to experiment, and I do think it is going to get better. He's been around like that 7, 8, 9 mark every year, so I don't think this is what we're going to see all season. But 4.1 completed air yards per completion is a little bit alarming as well. Pretty much they're just not throwing the ball downfield past 10, 15, 20 yards. And we saw them do it effectively, right? We saw Jahan Dotson in week 1. We saw DeVonta this past week. And you have lethal weapons on the outside. So it is a little alarming as to why they wouldn't do that. And I just think that they're going to have to, like I said, take some risks in this game. If it burns you, it does. But let's talk about this game with some strengths and weaknesses of the LA Rams. And I'm just going to go down the line here, and I'm going to give you my 3 keys. Pretty simple. Here's how the Philadelphia Eagles win this game. Okay, number 1, they have to win the turnover battle. And throughout the first 2 games, the Rams have been pretty good with this. They've only turned the ball over 2 times, but you know how many times the Eagles have turned it over? 0. The Eagles have not turned the football over. Obviously, a part of that is being conservative as well. But when you think about these teams, go back to that divisional round game. There were a couple big fumbles by the Rams, and that significantly hurt their chances in that game. Now, speaking of the Rams, you look at their first 2 games, everybody's all rah-rah on the Rams, and I do think that they will be one of the biggest tests in the NFC. The really big question was, is Matt Stafford healthy, right? He's like 37 years old or 38, and he came into the season, didn't really do much in the summer. He had a back injury, but he's playing overall pretty good. However, it also is important to realize who they went up against. The Houston Texans are 0-2. Their offense looks absolutely ghostly, and the Tennessee Titans are rebuilding, and they also got beat by the Rams. So I'm not ready to put the Rams on the pedestal with the crown just yet, but they are a pretty good team. But really, what is intriguing to me about this matchup is the defensive side of the ball. Honestly, I'm keeping my eyes glued more on the defense for the Rams. As you can see here, they are 4th in the NFL right now, 517 yards, giving up only 28 points, which is number 1 in the NFL. So they've been one of the best defenses. So if I had to give a matchup of the game, I would say we have to look at this young, feisty defensive line of the Rams going up against the Eagles O-line. And the Eagles O-line is the best in the NFL. They've been a little bit shaky through 2 weeks. I mean, Saquon's been clawing for everything. Jalen's been blitzed a lot. Matter of fact, he's at 38% on the season. Now, the Chiefs did blitz him 64% of the dropbacks, which was insane. But you look at this Rams defensive line, we talked about him in the playoffs last year. You have pretty much a 4-headed monster in Byron Young, Kobe Turner, Braden Fisk, and Jared Verse. And although Verse has no sacks, I mean, Byron Young has 3. Turner has 1, Fisk has 0, but they have Josiah Stewart, who they drafted. They have a lot of guys who can get to the quarterback. They're all in their mid-20s. Like I said, they're very energetic. They play with a lot of tenacity, and I would expect to see a lot of different looks in this game. So Will Jalen have the protection from his guys up front? Will he make good decisions with the ball? And there will be times where he'll have to roll out and improvise himself. I also think that Saquon Barkley has an opportunity here to really spark off a big run. Last year, Saquon had 4 runs against the Rams of 60-plus yards, 4 touchdowns. Nobody had ever had more than 4 in a season. He had 7 last year, and 4 of them came against the Rams, 2 in the regular season, 2 in the playoff game in the snow. So really the Rams' kryptonite is Saquon Barkley, and I think that if he can break off a big run in this game, it will really set the tone. It'll take a lot of pressure off the offense. And last but not least, the final key of this game is the Eagles' wide receivers against the Rams' secondary. You look at the fact that Ahkello Witherspoon is going to be out, even though AJ cooked him for 3 touchdowns a few years ago. The Rams have Emmanuel Forbes, who also got cooked by A.J. Brown as a rookie with Washington. They have Darius Williams, but all of these guys are just okay. Like, they don't have an elite lockdown corner. You look at last week, the Eagles didn't try to stretch the field. A.J. Brown's longest reception of the season right now is 8 yards, which is ridiculous. And DeVonta Smith's longest catch is 28 yards. Eagles need a couple big plays in this game. So, again, will they have the protection up front? Will they allow Jalen to send one downfield? I think the noise is loud enough right now, and the Eagles have all the tools in the tool bag. Now it's really time to put those boys to work, and you just have too much talent for this offense not to start clicking. I think this is going to be one of the biggest tests of the entire season, and I'm glad that it's coming now so the Eagles can really get themselves set mentally for what these games are going to be like this season. I do think next week will be tough with the Eagles going up against Tampa, who's had their number the last couple of years. So at the end of the day, I think the Eagles will get the better of the Rams in this matchup. Now, I think it's going to be very similar to the playoff game last year. I think it'll be a 1-score game. I think Jalen Hurts will finally unload the deep ball and find A.J. Brown for a big catch. I think Saquon Barkley will follow up on his performance last year against the Rams with another big-time run to get the offense flowing. And I think both quarterbacks are ultimately going to take some hits in this game, but nonetheless, it'll be Vic Fangio and another masterclass by the Eagles defense to make a big stop in the fourth quarter with the game on the line to seal the deal. Give me the Eagles 27-23 to get it done and advance to 3-0. Those are my thoughts. Give me yours on this matchup down below. Who do you think's going to take the win this week? Who do you think is the better team? What are your main things you're looking out for? Give me all your thoughts down below. As always, appreciate everybody for tapping in. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. That being said, I will catch you on the next one.